Hello, my name is Laura Pop, and I am a point of contact for Title I Part D. This screencast will walk you through step by step how to complete the year-end data collection for Title I Part D. The due date for this data collection is June 21st, 2024. Form 1 is required for every Title I Part D subgrantee. When you click on Form 1, it will take you to a Microsoft form. You will enter your first and last name, your email address, and then you will select your PSU. If you do not see your PSU listed here, it is because you are not required to complete this data collection. If you feel a mistake has been made and you do not see your PSU and you feel you should be completing this data collection, please reach out to me, Laura Pop, at laura.pop@dpi.nc.gov, or my colleague, Dr. Nick Anderson, who is also a point of contact for Title I Part D. Nick can be emailed, he can be reached at nick.anderson@dpi.nc.gov. Once you have selected your PSU, you will check all the facility or program categories that receive Title I Part D funds and serve neglected or delinquent children and youth. The definitions are listed for you. If you do not feel that any of these program categories define your facility, you will want to select Other Program at the bottom. It is important to choose the category or categories that best match the facilities for which you are reporting data. You may just check one. For example, if you only have a wilderness camp for which you are reporting data, you would just check Ranch Wilderness Camp. However, maybe you have more than one program type for which you are reporting data. So check all that apply. It is also important to note that for each facility or program you select, you will need to complete a corresponding form where you enter the actual data for the given program. Once you select which programs apply, you will click Submit. Forms 2 through 10. For every program or facility or program category selected in Form 1, you will complete the corresponding form located here in the left-hand column. If you are not reporting data for a listed facility, do not complete that form. You will complete a form for every facility or program category that receives Title I Part D funds. So in Form 1, if you only clicked on Community Day Programs, then the only form that you would need to complete in addition to Form 1 is Form 3. If you have multiple program types, then you will complete multiple forms from Form 2 through 9. Each of these additional forms have the same questions. It's just aggregated by program category. When you open up one of the forms 2 through 9, it will again take you out to a Microsoft form. You will select your PSU, enter your first and last name and your email address. The first question asks you, are you reporting data for a Community Day program? This first question is meant just to be sure that you have opened up the appropriate form. If you accidentally opened this form and you do not have a Community Day program, if you say no, that will be all of the questions because you in fact don't need to complete this form. However, if you do have a Community Day program and you did intend on selecting this form, you will say yes, and additional questions will populate. You will enter the number of Community Day programs reporting data. You will enter the average length of stay in days for students in that given program. It's important to note that the number of days per student enrollment should not exceed 365. Because the reporting time frame is 365 days, it should not exceed that number. Multiple visits can be included. You would calculate this information by taking the length of time each child entering the facility within the reporting year stays, divided by the total number of children passing through that facility in that reporting year. That will give you the average length of stay. Again, this should not exceed 365 days. Question 7 asks you to enter the average number of days served for students in the given facility. You will enter the average number of days that each student is in attendance and receiving services supported by Title I Part D within the reporting year. It is very important to emphasize that the average number of days served will be less than the average length of stay. This is because Title I Part D services are not offered every day. For example, it is unlikely that services are offered on the weekends and holidays. Also, the average number of days served will be less than the average length of stay when students are absent due to illness, court dates, and so forth. There are some additional examples for you to look at. The average number of days served is calculated by taking the number of days each child receives services within the reporting year, divided by the total number of children passing through the facility in the reporting year. That will give you the average number of days served. Again, this should not exceed 365 days, and it should be less than the average length of stay, which was entered in the previous question. Number 8 asks you to enter the unduplicated count of students in the given program category. You will enter the number of unique students who benefited from Title I Part D funding. Be sure to count students only once, even if they were admitted to the same facility multiple times. For number 9, you will enter the duplicated count of students in the given program type. In this case, you will consider multiple enrollments. For number 10, you will enter the number of long-term students in the given program type. A long-term student is a student who was enrolled in the program for 90 or more consecutive calendar days. Next, you will enter the number of male students, then female students. Next, you will be entering the number of students based on age. This starts with age 3 and continues all the way to age 21. Next, you will enter the number of students with disabilities. Number 33 asks you to enter the number of students who are English learners. The next section has to do with ethnicity and race. You will enter the number of students who are Hispanic or Latino. Keep in mind, as we go through all of the questions related to ethnicity and race, as you can see by the heading here, if you were to take the amounts entered for all of these questions related to ethnicity and race, it should be equal to the total number of students in the given program. This ensures that you are not leaving any students out. You will continue to answer questions about ethnicity and race until you reach question 41. Question 41 asks about the number of students who earned high school course credits while enrolled in the facility or program. This section of questions are all related to transition services or academic and vocational outcomes while students were in the facility. Once you answer each of these questions about students in the facility, you will be asked whether or not you were able to collect data on students after they exited. If you say no, you will be asked to explain why data was unable to be collected on students after exit. And you will continue on to question 50. If you say yes, that you were able to collect data on students after exit, then you will have some questions related to outcomes up to 90 days after exit. Once you answer all of the questions related to outcomes after exit, you will pick back up with this question regarding whether or not you have any long-term students in the facility. A long-term student refers to any student enrolled for 90 or more consecutive calendar days. If you say no, that will be the end of the form. If you say yes, additional questions will populate asking about your long-term students. All students who are at a facility for 90 or more consecutive calendar days should be given an initial assessment and a post-assessment to measure growth. For this question, you will enter the number of long-term students who showed negative grade level change, which means scored lower on their follow-up assessment than on their initial assessment, from the initial reading assessment to the follow-up assessment. The next question asks you to enter the number of long-term students who showed no change in grade level, which means their scores did not change from the initial assessment to the follow-up assessment. The next question asks you to enter the number of long-term students who showed improvement up to 1 full grade level. And then finally, students who showed improvement of more than 1 grade level. After entering information about the reading assessment, you will enter the same questions, but this time about math. Once you have entered this data, you are finished with this form. You will click Submit. It's important to emphasize, once you click Submit, to think back to whether or not you need to complete any additional forms. If you have any questions about this data collection, please feel free to reach out to me or my colleague, Dr. Nick Anderson. Our email addresses are listed here for you on the screen. And thank you for attending this screencast.